Okay, hello everyone. I believe you can hear me. I want to welcome you to this evening class. How has been our day and how has been all the lectures? Okay, once again, it's good to have us. I want to believe we are fine and we are safe. Our prayer is that God will continually keep and protect us. So, we're going to be looking at performance appraisal. Performance appraisal. Performance appraisal. Okay, is the next topic, and we are going to be very fast because if I think we just have like after today we might just have one or two more classes, more likely one. Okay, and I still think we have like three topics after this. We still have two more topics, so let's see how fast we can go to see if we can cover at least summarize performance appraisal. Now, when you hear the word appraisal, what comes to your mind? Okay, when you hear the word appraisal, what comes to your mind? To appraise simply means to assess. Okay, not access as in to have to pass into it, but to assess, more like to check how somebody is doing or how something is performing. So the word performance has to do with trying to check an outcome. How is something doing? Is it doing well? And so at the end of this course, we are going to carry out examination of all the participants and the student. Why are we carrying out examination? Because we want to check how far they understood what has been taught all through the process. So for that reason, we carry out what an examination. So in the work environment, there's what we to assess and to check staff performance. The method and system used is what is called performance appraisal. So we are trying to check the performance of staff. We're trying to check how they are doing with respect to the objective that they are supposed to realize within that working space. We are going to be checking performance appraisal with respect to their job duties and job responsibilities. Remember in the last class we talked about job specification and job description. So it's a build upon that, and we have already looked at training and development in this class. Now, there are several methods of carrying out appraisal. So appraisal is the process of assessing the performance or progress of an employee or group of employees on a given job, as well as his potential for future development. So we are looking at what he's doing and we're assessing them, checking the progress. How far have they gone? How far have they learned? Have they been able to perform on their job, and how can we improve them for the future? So that is the essence of carrying out performance appraisal. And there are many systems of carrying out performance appraisal. We have use of psychometric testing, which uses psychometric system, which uses tests, which uses analysis, and all of that. Okay, standardized tests. We also have the 360-degree method of appraisal, and we also have the modern method of appraisal called management by objective, by developed by Peter Drucker, who is a management guru. Okay, so I'll list them. We have psychometric system. Okay, we have the psychometric system of kind of performance appraisal. We have psychometric testing. We have the 360-degree appraisal, and we have management by objective, which is more or less seen as the modern system of performance appraisal. I want to believe everyone is hearing me, okay? And I'm also sharing my screen, so you could look closely as much as possible to get a good view. So we're going to start with the first method of appraisal, which is the 360-degree method of appraisal. Oh, and keep in mind that we said appraisal is assessment of staff performance and their progress, and also looking at how they can improve in the future. So we said the 360-degree method of appraisal can be done either annually or biannually. Annually means once in a year. Biannually means when you rate, or when you assess your staff performance twice a year. That's biannually. So we said 360-degree appraisal is the process of gathering and comparing what is called feedbacks feedback from subordinates, from peers, from bosses on an individual management and leadership practice. The process is based around a relatively straightforward questionnaire. Okay, so let me explain it basically that in the 360-degree method of appraisal, you're going to be having three people that are going to be carrying out rating. First of all, there's what is called the self-rating. And in self-rating, you, the employee, will rate yourself. You'll be given a questionnaire, or more or less a question. I mean, you'll be given questions to which you go and assess and rate yourself and document. When you have completed that, which is where my mouse is pointing to, which is called self-rating, you now also go to the next rating, which is going to be carried out by your supervisor, by your departmental head, or by your leader, whoever is in charge of the team. So that person also carries out rating. Then lastly, it's going to also be psychometric testing. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Lastly, after carrying out that rating, then the last one is going to be carried out by the human resource manager. So 3 stages or degrees of rating. The first stage or degree of rating is going to be done by you yourself, or the employee rather. Second rating is going to be carried out by the departmental head or supervisor. Then the third rating is going to be carried out by the human resource management. So how is it done? Now I have an example of a template. It's just an example of a template or performance appraiser, so that we can see it and have idea of what it is. Okay, so this is a performance appraisal template that has been developed, and it has 3 sections. So this first point is basic information about the staff, the workers, and all of that. Okay, so you're going to be having things like your name, your position, length of service, who is the appraisal, the venue, and all of that. That is taken care of in the first section. Okay, then the second section is the second section is part A, and this is where the employee starts rating himself. This is where the employee starts rating himself. Now let's look at a couple of questions. We'll not be able to look at all of them. The first question here says, state your understanding of your main duties and responsibilities. State your understanding of your main duties and responsibilities. So you will now state what you know, what you understand. This question is actually asking of job description. Question 2 says, how has the last year been? Is it good, bad, or satisfactory, or why? So you're carrying out performance appraisal, you're filling a form, you're assessing yourself, you're rating yourself. Okay, then the third part is, the third question, what do you consider to be your most important achievement in the past year? Here is another question. What do you like and dislike about working in this organization? All this, you're rating yourself, you're answering these questions for yourself. Okay, what elements of your job do you find interesting? What element of your job interests you the most, and what elements of your job or parts of your job interest you the least? What do you consider to be your most important aims and objectives and tasks for the next year? Okay, now here is this question 7. Say, what action could be taken to improve your performance in your current position? Another question says, what kind of job would you like to be doing now or in the next years? Now here is this one, which is the last one I'm going to read. Question 9 says, what sort of training or experience would benefit you in the next year? What sort of training or experience is going to benefit you in the next year? Okay, so in doing that, all this, you are rating yourself in an honest manner, in an open manner. When you are done rating yourself from stage A, you now pass it to your departmental supervisor, who is going to rate you based on the same things that you have rated yourself. So he is going to go through what you have done, then he will start rating yourself. Rating you based on his own assessment of your performance. So if in a particular place you rated yourself in some way, he is going to also give his response to the same question that you're going to answer. After that, the section C is where you now take it to your human resource manager, who is going to look at what you have said as an employee or staff, and also rate what and look at what the departmental leader has said or your supervisor has said, then now give his final judgment on on the assessment. Now, judgment more like final assessment or conclusion on your appraisal. So it's important to note that appraisal systems and appraisal documents are not witch hunting tools, because sometimes if you look at some of the questions in an appraisal, workers might tend to be scared of how they are going to answer. Let it not be as it were used against them. If I tell the truth, okay, that I'm not enjoying my work, how will it be perceived? No, appraisals are meant to give information that can help your superior or your boss to design a way of improvement on that job. Okay, so this is just an example of a template of how you can carry out performance appraisal. In some places, usually called APA, annual performance appraisal. Okay, so that is majorly how 360-degree method works. There's a self-rating, then your departmental supervisor rates you, then lastly, the human resource department finally rates you. That is the administrative department or the administrator. Then you are now, called upon and have a discussion on challenges that you are facing on your work. Now, it's also important to note that is when you have carried out performance appraisal that you can develop what is called training needs. It is from performance appraisal you can see areas of staff weaknesses, you can see areas where they are performing poorly, you can see areas where they need knowledge, more training. And because of the knowledge and training that they need based on the assessment, you can now know where to bring about training to bring about improvement to your staff performance. Okay, so that's how the 360-degree method works. Then we have what is called the psychometric testing. Okay, psychometric tests are more like questionnaires which are structured in a systematic way to evaluating performance. Okay, there are generally two types: questionnaires assessing personalities and value. Then we have intelligence tests. So you can go for a test as a form of what? Assessment, which is as a form of what? Appraisal. Okay, then we have the last one, which is management by objective. Okay, but before we look at the modern system, which is called management by objective system of carrying out performance appraisal, I would like us to look at what we call performance appraisal errors. Performance appraisal errors. Performance appraisal errors. In other words, if you're carrying out assessment, how do you how do you know or observe areas where you have to be very, very careful? It's like you, a lecturer who is marking the script of students, and even the way you mark, whatever is happening can affect the way you mark. So what are we saying? There are appraisal errors that have to be noted when carrying out appraisal. Let's look at the first one, which is called halo effect. Then note that this is what is called rater errors. Who is a rater? A rater is the one who carries out, who leads that assessment. So the first one is what is called halo effect. I would say it's the tendency of a person who is exceptionally strong in one area to be rated high in all other areas. So, for example, as a lecturer, you sometimes come across students who are good in certain areas. So if I have a student who is excellent in mathematics, for instance, it would be wrong for me to assume that because he's very good in mathematics, always scoring A, that he will also score high in English. I might go to his English class and see that he's not doing well. So halo effect is when you rate somebody high because he's doing well in one area. Okay, then Horn's effect is the opposite of halo effect, which is the tendency to rate a person who is weak in one area as weak in other areas. So back to my question of students that are doing in school. If I see a student who is not performing well in, let's say, mathematics, it would be wrong of me to assume that since he's not doing well in mathematics, he's also not going to do well in all other subjects. That is a very, very wrong assumption, and whoever does that is called Horn's effect. So we have halo effect, Horn's effect. Then central tendency is avoiding highs and lows and extreme. You just rate somebody in the middle, Then leniency effect is when you rate people high because you're trying to be what? Because of pity. oh, let's pity them so that they can pass and promote. So that leniency effect, you rate your workers high because of pity. Then severity effect when you rate your workers low. Okay, when you rate them low because of what? Your severity nature of what? Assessment. Then similar to me is when you rate somebody, I hope we are right in place. Similar to me is when you rate somebody because you share certain things in common with the person. You're from the same state, from the same village, from the same school. Is your friend. You have known him for years. Or, such kind of special relationship. And because of what you know about them, they are similar to you. They are like you. They share your values and belief system, and you rate them, high based on that factor. Then we have the last one, which is called contrast effect. Is when you rate people relative to other people. So if I gave an assignment now, and you came together and did it as a group work, maybe 3 or 4 of you or 5 of you, and you submit, okay, that assignment must have been probably done by 1 or 2 persons, but because it's a group responsibility, everyone gets to score the same thing. Even for those that were not around, who don't even know the question, will still get to score the same thing. Why? Because it's a group assignment. And so that's what is contrast effect. In contrast effect, you rate somebody relative to other people in the same group rather than based on individual performance. So we have halo effect, we have the horns effect, we have the central tendency, we have the leniency effect, we have the severity effect, we have similar to me, and we have contrast effect. All these are the challenges that raters are going to face when carrying out performance appraisal. Okay, so let's quickly proceed. Our time is fast spent. We just have half of the time. Let's look at management by modern method of management by what? Peter Drucker, as I said earlier on. Now, most of the traditional methods emphasize either on a task or a worker's personality while making an appraisal. For bringing about a balance between these two, that's what gave birth to management by objective, to bridge a gap between the old and the new system. So it was Peter Drucker who first brought about the concept of management by what? Objectives. Okay, and management by objective can be described as a process whereby a superior or subordinate manager of an organization jointly identify its common goals, define each individual's roles and responsibility in terms of the result expected of them, and use these measures as guide to check them and assess them. So Peter Drucker says, rather than just go by general systems, let us first of all identify the goals that we want to achieve. Now relate these goals to what? The staff in the organization. After relating these goals to them, then we are going to expect them to perform in line with these goals, and now judge their results, or now assess them based on what we want them to do, or based on what we want to be achieved. So, and you must understand that certain things are important aspects of this system called management by objective, because it teaches about goal setting. Okay, it helps the individual clearly to know what he is going after in the work environment. Okay, because you know that there are going to be targets, there are going to be objective and goals for you to achieve. So it is clearly defined for you as a worker to know that, yes, I have responsibilities and these are the goals I am supposed to achieve. And it focuses attention on what must be accomplished, okay, rather than how it is to be accomplished, okay, on results, okay, and not just the process. Okay, it also establishes goal yardstick. What do you mean by a yardstick? A standard, a template for us to achieve, to measure, because there's there's a goal for us. So the objective of management by is to change behavior and attitude of workers in order to be able to get jobs done better. Now, let us look at the steps in carrying out management by objective. Let us look at the steps. First of all, Peter Drucker says you must establish a goal. We're talking about the process of carrying out management by objectives, okay, form of appraisal. You have to have a goal. What is the goal that you want your workers to accomplish? Then number two, you set a standard. Okay, everyone must meet the standard. So let me see a readily available goal. You're a marketer, for instance, and you're told that, okay, at least you must make before the end of every month, you must have made a sale of maybe 100 cartons. Just so the goal is sell 100 cartons. What is the standard you should just to sell? What is the standard? 100 cartons. You have to meet up with that requirement. So when you set a standard, you know that this person has something, a target to accomplish. So compare. Then the next step is to now to compare the actual goals with standard goals. So you go out in the month and you're able to sell 80 cartons. So we compare the actual, which is the actual 80 cartons sold, which is the standard 100. What is the difference? 20. So we now try to find out why wasn't he able to sell all 100. Now this space, this space is what helps us to develop training needs. What are the challenges? Is it competition? Is it the person is not giving enough remuneration, or was person having health issues? Why was he not able to sell that? Now that difference tells you the area where you can get training needs. Okay, and of course there are so many benefits of using management by objectives. Okay, so as we're talking about the management by objective, we said the first thing is to what? Establish a goal. Number two, set what is called a performance standard. What do you want them to achieve? Number three, compare the actual goal with the goal that has been established. Then we said lastly, establish new goals. Or sorry, the final step is to involves building new goals and possibly new strategies that have not been previously attained. So this is the concept that Peter Drucker proposed on how to effectively carry out performance appraisal. So where does the appraisal now comes in? The appraisal now comes in when you compare what the actual performance with the what? With the standard performance. Why? Your standard performance are the targets, the goals that you set for everyone, okay, to achieve within a particular space of time. Everyone is to achieve a particular task, is to do something definite. You know that every day you come to work, you're supposed to do this. By the end of the week, you should have done this, and all of that. So those goals give everyone in the workplace what to pursue. Okay. Now the next thing is it beneficial? Is it good to use this modern system, which is called management by objectives? Because, and let's look at some of, and why. So we said the first one is that it focuses on objectives. What do we want to achieve? We are not just working anyhow. We are working based on the goal of what we intend to achieve. Okay. Then the next thing is better management and organizing things. You are able to focus and plan and effectively manage the outcomes better. Because you see, in the other true method that we talked about, we didn't necessarily set any standard or requirement that they must achieve. Okay, we just carried out an appraisal and we said we might not get the necessarily best outcome from that. Then we next thing about management by objective is that it reduces what is called role ambiguity and reduces conflict. Why? Because an objective has been set, everybody, a goal has been established, and everyone know that this is my responsibility, this is my goal, I'm the one that's supposed to be achieve it, and my rating is going to be based on what? My actual performance with respect to what? My standard performance. Then we said the next thing that it provides more objective appraisal criteria. Okay, I've already mentioned that. Then it helps to develop personal leadership because you become responsible. Management by objective helps the individual manager to develop personal leadership, early listening skills, managerial skills, planning, motivating, counseling, evaluation. All of these you learn when you use management by objective, then you are able to identify areas of weaknesses. But the challenge is that as every system also has largely disadvantages, there are also disadvantages of using um, uh, this other system. Okay. Let's look at the disadvantage of management by objective. First of all, we say unfavorable attitude of managers. Okay, yes, you could have a boss, a manager who is not, responding well in terms of, the way he's carrying out uh, the whole system. It can give you a target that is unnecessarily very high. That is a standard for you to achieve that becomes very difficult. Okay, and these concepts are also very difficult to apply. Executives who have been involved very much find it difficult to apply MBO, that's management by objective, in their own work habit. They find it difficult about their result, and so we are saying that it's easier to apply this to other person, but to apply it to yourself can be very challenging. So the whole system of using uh, management by objective concepts can be very can be tasking as well. So it's challenging to always set goals for workers, only when you have a large number of workers and workforce. It's challenging to give tasks and always follow up to see that those tasks are achieved. And also it might involve a lot of paperwork. It might involve a lot of paperwork, and so that can be cumbersome as well. Then it does not help in managing time very effectively. It doesn't help in managing time very effectively. So these are some of the challenges when you try to use management by objectives. Okay, so let me quickly explain something as we move on. Generally, note this note these systems and of carrying out performance appraisal. Number one, first of all, in carrying out performance appraisal, it's good to always establish a standard. Okay, why? Because you want to be able to access them based on that standard. Number two, it's always important. Note the following things under carrying out performance appraisal. I said the first thing is that what is always good to establish a standard, because if there's no standard, then how do we know how workers are faring? If you are going to use the psychometric test, for instance, where they go to write maybe an examination or test, and how are you going to grade them? You have to create a system. Those that get so and so percentage, they scored high. Those that get so certain something, they are average. So you have to have a standard. Secondly, let the workers be aware that there is a standard. We are going to be grading you, we're going to be assessing you, and there's going to be a mode of assessment. You can communicate what you expect of workers. Okay, the next thing is what you have to measure. You have to measure what they actually how they actually perform. And some of the ways that you can measure are by using personal observation. You can use reports, both statistical reports, oral reports. You can equally use what written reports. You can from reports you can it helps. Okay, you can get information and measure their actual performance. Okay, then the next thing that you will always is always good to perform um, a kind of difference by finding out by comparing the actual performance with the standard, because from the beginning you started with the standard, then you look at it with respect to the actual performance. Then this area is what many employers do not do. Okay, it's like I'm having network issues. Beg your pardon. I hope you can hear me clearly. Okay, so you have to discuss with the appraisal. Discuss the appraisal with the employee. You have accessed him, you have checked, you have seen how he performed. The next thing is discuss it with them. Now, even if because of the large number, the discussion might not be possible in an individual basis, which is always preferable. You can create group discussion sessions where you identify all the challenges from the performance appraisal, comparing actual performance and standard. The next step is to discuss periodically the appraisal with the workers. Discuss it to them. If you use the 360-degree method and you assess them, you ask them questions: how did they perform, how did they see it, what are the challenges that they saw, and you look at their results, you look at their assessment of themselves, see how they perceive themselves, see how they see that they are performing in the workplace by them, based on the 360 degree that they feel for themselves. Based on that, you can now check. Then last, we said initiate corrective action. You're not carrying out appraisal because you just want to carry out appraisal for carrying it out sake. No, you're carrying out appraisal because you want about what? You want there to be improvement. That's the essence. You don't want to just be carrying out your activities in the workplace only to realize that your staff are not performing well and you've not been training them, or you've not been carrying out assessments of how they're performing. Because you see, this assessment makes staff sit up, makes staff serious. When there's no form of assessment, then everyone can be what? Lackadaisical. So it's not enough. At the end of the day, you have to initiate what is called a corrective action. By corrective action, we mean all the challenges you have discovered, all the problems you have realized with your staff. What are you going to do about it? That is where the corrective action, initiating a corrective action, comes in place. You're not just trying to discover what they are doing wrong, or that they're not performing, or they're underperforming. You're trying to realize those areas of errors or mistakes so that you can do something about it. So very importantly, at the end, initiate corrective action by realizing what the area of challenge, by realizing where they need to be trained, by realizing other challenges that they have, then bring about other systems to see how you can improve. So I just summarize performance appraisal. I'll just do a brief summary in the next 2 minutes because our time is up. Note that in performance appraisal generally, our goal is to see how staff are performing and see how staff are doing, and bring in systems of what to see that we can assess them, we can check them, so that we can bring about what? Improvement. And we said we looked at 3 basic methods of performance appraisal. The first, which is called the 360-degree method. Second, which I said, is psychometric testing. Then the last one is what we call management by objective, developed by Peter Drucker. In the first one, which is 360-degree method of appraisal, there are 3 stages to it where you rate yourself. I just showed us a template of a performance appraisal system. Okay, you will rate yourself as an employee or worker, after which supervisor will also rate you, and all the questions, the 9-10 questions you're going to answer are the same questions he's going to answer, more or less. More of those questions are repeated. Why? Because we want to get your view about your performance. They will also want to get your supervisor's view, who has been supervising your work. Then we now take it to the human resource department, where other administrators sit on your performance appraiser and are able to observe and note several things regarding the employee. And okay, so that's the 360-degree appraisal. The second one is psychometric testing, where you can use tests, you can use questionnaires, and the last one is what is called management by what? Objective, developed by Peter Drucker. And management by objective proposes that you set out goals, you set out targets, you set out things that you want workers to achieve, which is what he called your standard. Okay, then you allow them to go out over the time, they start to carry out their responsibilities, their duties. At the end of the day, you now compare their actual performance with with the goals and objective and standard performance. Of course, the difference between the standard and the actual tells you the lag and tells us the area of weaknesses that needs to be looked into by the staff. So we looked at, lastly, general. We also looked at performance appraisal and rater errors, which I'm not going to go back into. And we now looked at general things to note while carrying out appraisal. First of all, we said establish a standard. There should be a standard. Secondly, communicate that expectation. What do you expect of the staff? What do you want them to do? What do you want them to achieve? Communicate that expectation to the employees. Then number 3, we said when they have gone out carrying out their responsibility, then you can now measure, check what you wanted to achieve, the actual performance, and then also check sorry, the standard performance and their actual performance. Okay, the difference tells you how they perform an area where there is need for what training. Then after doing that comparison, then you discuss with the employee, either in group sessions or individual, with the employees, on areas that you found weaknesses in the appraisal, in the questions that they answered, where they said you are having challenges. You look at those areas and see how you can address it. If it's training they need, if it's a challenge they are facing that is personal, if it's a work challenge, organizational challenge, if it's a management challenge, technical error challenge, whatever the challenge is, then you now look to see how it can be corrected. And lastly, we said initiate corrective action. Don't just assess and leave it like that. Do something about what has been realized. And with this, we wrap up performance appraisal. Thank you for being part of today's class. In the next class, we're going to look at probably the last two topics that we have, after which I'm also going to give us an assignment in the last class. Thank you so much for being part of today's class. I wish you a nice evening. Thank you.